you're explaining today about
the winter focus, the winter festivals is focusing on there are many festivals that take place in especially in Northern Europe, between November and January.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the end of autumn going into winter.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the two biggest ones are Christmas and Easter.
Mm-hmm.
So Easter is the beginning of spring and Christmas is the beginning of winter. So it's looking at those things and getting as much information and understanding about those the reasons for them, and going past looking at some of the traditions that actually gave those festivals.
Okay.
So here with the alchemic structure, alchemy is the forerunner of chemistry, concerned with the transmutation of matter. In particular, it tends to turn base metals like lead into gold. So basically what this structure is about is bringing about change. So, and you're talking about constructive change.
So that's where you use the word alchemy.
Alchemy, yeah, alchemy.
Okay.
And anytime you see the word al, it's coming from an Arabic root. So it basically means of. So if you've got chem as in, a chemistry.
Yes.
This is it says the medieval forerunner of chemistry, concerned with the transmutation of matter. So this is all about change. If you've got somebody who's an alchemist, it's somebody who can go into an organization or any circumstance and bring about change. So, for instance, Lance's role as a leader, you were a leadership consultant, isn't it?
Yeah, did that. Teaching, leadership consultant, group work specialist.
So that's alchemy.
Changing your people, adults that work with young people.
So what got here, I was realizing a lot of the time when I was a young boy in school, 4 or 5 years old, there were 2 books that we used for English. One was called Reading for Meaning, and the other one was called Reading to Some Purpose. So what happened was, Reading for Meaning I liked because you have one word answers. Reading to Some Purpose, you had to use sentences. And because of something I'd asked my mother one time, I was a very, very slow, careful writer. So it used to take me ages to write a sentence. But Reading to Some Purpose, as I've got older, I realized that some people read, there's not really a purpose behind it. It's just like getting knowledge for knowledge's sake. So when I came back from Brazil, I was trying to think to myself, how can I get this kind of understanding, get an understanding across, so people start to look with an intention, have intention as to why they're reading something or watching something or accessing something or talking to somebody. Why are you doing that?
What's the motivation?
Yeah. So if you're Muslim, you say niyyah, N-I-W-I-A, intention. Or if you apply the Ngoza Saba, which we'll see later, is niyyah meaning purpose. So what's the purpose behind reading this, watching that, and what effects does it have on you? Because what I'll get to later, there's a thing which we're talking now, a lot of people talk about, is epigenetics. But everybody's talking about trauma. So if you're watching something like Will Smith coming out with another slave film about the guy with a ripped up back. They go called Black Peter or something is the name of the film. So for people who've gone through enslavement, that could be triggering a re-traumatization on a very deep level. So there's like a diet, people like hungry want to get hold of that kind of information over and over and over and over. So you see, when I look at enslavement, I've got to be careful because my lineage never went through slavery. I'm more likely to have been there in slavery as a slaver than the slave, because of my direct African root, and then because I'm mixed race as
Your
well.
presentations in here.
Yeah,
Absolutely amazing.
So,
Later,
so,
bro. Later.
see ya. So what goes on? I've got to be very, very careful with the way I handle things. But then there are also these things about how do people connect with that trauma? Is that anger inside them that's coming out all the time, or else is it what am I doing? Does it just make people freeze off? I don't want to do this. So if you remember, Lance, when we were doing the classes back in the 90s, we had Introduction to Black Studies.
Right, yeah, and psychology and
Yeah, so first area was history,
yes, it's
area 7 psychology, but we moved area 7 psychology to number 1 because a lot of black people realize a lot of black people don't want to study their history because of how it makes them feel. But the history that they're thinking of studying is enslavement.
But do you think that's the real reason, or do you think some of them just not care, just like they don't care about other things when it comes to their own race?
Of course, but then you have to ask, why do they not care? You have to ask, because remember, they've done history. They did history in school. So they've been taught history, they watch history on TV. Almost everybody at some points watched a film that's including history or a documentary or something. But then what it is, that when you know what, everybody says fight or flight.
Yeah.
Fight or flight, but the third F is freeze. So fight, flight, or freeze. And when it comes down to your own stuff, if you're frozen, you just go, I ain't gonna do that, I ain't bothered about that, and whatever.
But it's just like you stated before, most people now, they've not been through slavery. Their generation, their parents have, or the fourth parents have, but they haven't really experienced that themselves.
But you see, this is what the epigenetics is.
Okay.
Because you didn't, if you go back how many generations, you got where do you get your genes from?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the genes are in you, and genes, what they do, they lay dormant and they can trigger.
Yes.
So they can skip generations as well, especially on the female line.
Okay.
Was there something, so I don't mean to. Can I speak?
Yeah, of course.
Was it Patricia
Thank you.
Newton?
Thank you.
Patricia Newton wrote
Yeah.
something about the post-traumatic stress. Is it? Syndrome. Thank you.
Well, the
Something
syndrome,
like
the
that.
syndrome is by Joy DeGuer.
Yeah.
I think she's late now. But Pat Newton first time I ever heard of anything like that was Dr. Patricia Newton.
Yeah.
And she said post-traumatic slavery disorder.
Yes.
And she said disorder to make it link with the Ossetian myth of Ma'at and Isfet. So it is that the disordered state is when, for instance, when people get upset and they're traumatized and they're going like, oh, I'm in bits,
Yes.
or my emotions are scattered. All these phrases relate to the mindset being shifted away from what we're supposed to be looking at to be in charge of ourselves, in charge of our emotions, in charge of our ideas, our destiny, or whatever. So if you've got that dynamic going on inside you, in the gene pool, it can be triggered.
Yes.
And to me, I don't think it's by accident they keep showing us things on slavery. Over and over and over, every year there's something else comes on. It's like, oh, you're a slave, you're a slave, you're a slave. And so if you want to teach children in school, they say, well, you go to, black history, slavery. That's not black history. You take the B off black, it says that's black history.
Okay.
So what goes on is that instead of having that historical continuum, sorry, Junior, can you hit the lights a minute, please?
Okay.
This timeline here, so if we go, I know it's difficult to see, sorry, because of the size, but this strip of blue here, this is southern slavery, and this is northern slavery, so that's Spanish Portuguese, and then this blue in the background, fading in the background there, this is northern as in French, British, and Dutch in the main. So that's how much, if you talk about slavery, that's how much history you have, this strip of blue here. If you go to Arab slavery, we're going to go back to this this like goldy color in the background. That's how much history you've got if you're Arabized, right? So the rest of this continuum, African continuum of history, is dead to you. Is dead to you. So if they give you biblical history, the oldest you can go back to biblical history is this point here, is where you're going to go back to Abraham and Moses. So it's 1750, 1530 BC. So you're going to go back to this point here. What about all of this going on before? So you see, the idea is to contain people, make people believe all they have got is this little bit where you're under the control of Europe, or this little bit where you're under the control of Arabia.
So how does the teaching come in now? Because I understand the point you're trying to make, which is a very valid point about not teaching certain part of the history. But how would they get access to the right part of the history, which needed to be out there?
But first and foremost, this for instance, this is AD and this is BC. If you go to the British School's national curriculum,
Yeah.
the first skill you're supposed to learn in history is chronological order. Chronological order. And I defy most people who've been studying history in secondary school, for instance, to be able to place things in chronological order.
Can you break that down a bit, please? What's chronicle? Can you explain that?
Chronological order. Chronos means time,
Yeah.
and then logical is the order. So chronological is time order.
Okay.
Chronological. So it means what occurred first.
Yeah.
Usually they say which occurred first.
Yes.
So for instance, I did a session years ago in Manchester Metropolitan University, and I asked the people who were there, mainly lecturers and students, and I said to them, what role do you think the Christian church had when the Romans first invaded Britain? What role did it, what do you think the church did? We had like nearly half an hour discussion. Half an hour people would say, well, they would have done this, they would have done some way, they might have helped the Romans, they might have done this, that. Then after half an hour I said, what year did the Romans invade Britain? And someone said, 55 BC. Before Christ, there was no Christian church. I asked them a redundant question, but in their imaginations, they couldn't imagine a time when there was no Christian church. That's the power of chronological order. If you know that, and what I never mind teaching the content, all I want people to be understanding is that, number one, there's the area which they call BC, and this didn't occur here. This timeline was invented around this point in history, 525 BC, AD 525, at this point here. And then it was organized and then sent back. There was no, all of this was cut out, all the BC. There was no BC. There was only AD. They stopped time and started it off. It's only till a guy close to this called the Venerable Bede in this country started using the term BC. And what it was, they wanted to have the power, the Roman Catholic Church, the Western Roman Church, wanted to get the power to define everything. And so therefore they invented this structure called AD, Anno Domini, meaning year of the Lord. So when they invent this thing here, they stop time, so then time counts down, 1500, 1000, 500, 400, 300, 200, got down to 1 BC, and then it goes AD, 1, 100, 500, 1000, etc. And we're now in 2022 since they stopped time. Right?
So they've stopped time.
They stopped time. Inverted commas. You can't stop time.
Yeah.
But they stopped time. When Pol Pot did that in Cambodia, when he said today is the first day of the rest of all time, they said he was a madman. They said he was a crazy man. But then it was already been done.
No, they'd already beat him to it.
It had already been done before. So you see, what happens is when we start looking at Christmas, Christmas, it means we're being brought to this point at the beginning of AD. This is their annual reminder of this BCAD structure.
Okay.
So as soon as we are born, they look at our genitals. Not you, of course. No, they didn't do that with you. You were too. They said she's too saintly. Too saintly.
Too saintly.
She's too saintly.
Too Catholic.
Yeah, she's too much of that. They say she's ardent. Look at her, she's ardent. We're not going to check her genitals. Sorry. So what I missed. Sorry. So what they do, the first thing they're going to do is look at your genitals, and then they're going to give you a date of birth. And that date of birth gives you a relationship with Jesus Christ or Christianity.
Yes.
So the minute you go, what's your date of birth? You got 959. I was born 1,959 years since Jesus was born.
So without me asking a question that kind of seems, because you use the word birth and then you use the word Jesus Christ, but then we know Muslims don't associate with Jesus Christ. So how does
Yes,
the
they
Muslim...
do.
They do.
Okay.
Sorry.
Prophet Isa.
They say he's a prophet, yeah. Yes.
Okay.
But different names.
So it's okay. So Muhammad is just a okay.
Just a different
No, Muhammad's not. Don't never say Muhammad's just.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, unless you say he is just.
No,
as
no.
incorrect.
No, as in no. I never mean as in just as in
Right.
yeah. But I'm just saying. So he's so can you explain that a bit? Because I don't want to have.
Well, what you're going to find is this here. If you go here to roundabout 624, you're going to find that this point here, this is where Al-Islam is formed here, at this point. So we've got Christianity being formed in this region here.
Yeah.
So you got the Coptic Ethiopian Church first,
Yeah.
and then you got the Roman Catholic Church. You've got the developments up here.
And where's the Islam?
Islam's here. It's after. It's
Okay.
AD 624. It's here. It's the time 622. Sorry, the Hijra, the flight. So this is where Islam is officially formed. You will not find a historical document talking about a religion called Islam until this point and beyond.
Okay.
Right? So if you go to the oldest of the Abrahamic religions, of course, we have to go back to 1750 to here is Abraham, who's the progenitor, and then the lawgiver of Judaism is Moses at this point, 1530 BC. So all of these things, date them, put them in chronological order. That's one of the key things to do. If a lot of people have got belief and faith, but then if you ask them about the history and when these things occurred, well, we don't want to get into that. So we were at a party one time. There's a brother who was asking Lance and myself about, did you gave all this thing that a black man invented the traffic light. Where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? And I said to him, you're a Christian, isn't it? He says, yes. I said, so you believe there's a man born of a virgin whose birth was announced by angels to shepherds, that wise men were guided by a star and brought him gold, frankincense and myrrh, that by the age of 11 he was able to outreason the wisest in the land, that when at the command of his mother he starts to turn water into wine at his first miracle. He acts miracles, makes the blind see, the deaf hear, the cures leprosy, makes the lame walk, feeds 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 3 fishes. He walks on water. He dies. He comes back to life and floats up in the light. And you ask me for evidence for a traffic light? But that's the inconsistency that we get, and that's called belief. And in the middle of the word belief, it says the word lie.
Yeah, you're not sure.
So I don't diss people's faith.
So you're saying in the middle of the word believe, even though obviously it's there,
Lie.
but I never even noticed, but it's the word lie.
Yeah.
Believe and belief. Lie.
So when you've got these things, it's the idea for me is to lay down things like this, So you can differentiate the BC AD, you know when people are talking about. Because like I say, Romans first go into Britain, 55 BC here, the Christian church isn't built until after here. So we know in chronological terms, it's impossible. But then people don't know history, they're going to go like, oh yeah, well, well, I think.
So now we know where to start. How would you start? Or how would you, because basically the wrong information is out there at the moment, basically, the wrong history.
No, what I'll say is that information's out there, it's can we put it in order?
Yeah, information's all over the place.
So just watch this. The most important line on that chart is this yellow line that goes all the way down. And the reason being, that's the mitochondrial DNA from your mother. So all the way down here, the yellow line is the only reality. The dates put on top of that yellow line, whether it be Jewish dates, Islamic dates, Christian dates,
Hebrew dates.
or Hebrew, well, it doesn't matter. They are constructs from people. But the genetic code has been running down here all the way down to the beginning of all time. And they say, if anybody says to me, you know, well, what about where's this from? Where's that from? I said, no, you. What's that? What's my whole thing from the church? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Well, actually, yes, you had to be, because you're here now. So you had to be around there in your genetic code all the way back to the beginning of all times.
Yeah, so somebody in the family was hanging out there at that time.
Someone was it may not have been in that vicinity in particular, but your Iceland must have been there,
Yeah, those DNA genes.
hanging out there. And who's got the oldest genes on the planet?
The black man.
Yeah.
Africans.
Yeah.
Oldest genes on the planet. So you go to any of the theorists. Yeah, you've got some people, white people. There's people who refuse to believe they descended from black. But the only thing is that logically, it's right there.
Then what I kind of get.
So you don't. Well,
There's too much
so you're
evidence
saying
now.
that the Caucasian man comes from the black, yeah?
Yes.
There's too much evidence now from bones, from genetics, from DNA to show that where humanity originally came from. It's like there's too much in your face. For example, I did a disc with the Science
Yeah.
Educational Association of Great Britain
Yeah.
in 2000.
Yeah.
They did a disc showing that where humanity came from and it started in Africa. That disc was sent to every high school in the country. They haven't got a problem with that. They know.
But don't you think something was genetically done that you got different races because all
Yeah,
this
it's called weather,
It's called
climate.
climatic adaptation.
It's called phenotype adaptation to your environment.
so the climate gives the black man after a certain time straight nose.
That's because of the cut. You go through the thing.
Yeah.
Straight nose is to allow the
Cold
temperature
air,
to
cold
heat up
air.
on the way up with cold air. Because if you have the nostrils like this and you're out in the cold and you
Dying.
suck up that thing, you're gonna get brain freeze, literally.
I know, but how come we here now as black people, we are living the life in the same cold as the white man does?
No. You're talking about how many thousand years, mate?
And think of what
This
clothes
is-
they had back then. Think of what, central heating they had back then.
So think on, because think on this.
Africa is different. In Africa, you have the East African, Ethiopian, Somalian. You have them narrow noses of the the height,
Yeah.
the land that they live because of the altitude. And then you have the Sudan down in Central Africa. They have broad nose. So even in Africa, you can still see the shape of the nose is not the same.
Due to the environment.
It depends where they live and why they need the nose.
And it's
How
like,
many air intake that you need. That's it.
Environment.
same with the hair.
Yeah.
Same with the hair because it's a cooling system. Yeah, but instead of a cooling system, over thousands of years it adapts to become a heating system, as in layered hair and hairy bodies as well.
So you don't believe the white man can dispute what you're saying because
It's
he
a
will-
white man's theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he will death. So what about these person who are being racist like and do they don't know where they come from? Is that what you're saying now? How does
They
it work?
choose to believe
They
what
choose
they
to
choose to
believe.
believe.
They choose to
And
believe
what did
that
we say
word.
about the word believe?
Lie.
They choose to believe in that, yeah? Because they go, well, most people, because I worked in education a lot, yeah? I went to a high arena and go, well, what are you talking about? What we just said there? That's the mainframe in education in this system now say, yeah, we have to accept that.
I know, but how come this separation becomes race and the race becomes an issue?
Race didn't become an issue until round up about the 1780s, 1750s, 1780s.
Yeah,
Right up here. It's a theory that was put together.
Relatively a modern concept.
And then why was race happen? Because you know the capitalists, they was racing for something. So race is not like far off from the word race to race for something. So you have to have classes for you to race competition.
Power.
So it's a similar word, race and racism. You know, it's like it happened in Europe. They was racing among one another to become the most powerful.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
class structure.
Saying one better than the other.
Yeah, always that.
Yeah.
So you're saying, is that where the word racist come from then?
Race, right? As a thing, you used to be able to have a race of fish, a race of wines, a race of anything, just meant a collection. Then it's associated with the race of the sun, the movements of the sun. So you go from the 1500s when it starts to be recorded in dictionaries, and if you check out in the etymology of it, it changes until it starts saying the races of men, of human beings. And then what happens is a guy called Blumenbach comes across, and then he starts, Carl Linnaeus first, and he's organizing, he's doing taxonomy. So if you ever check, there's a thing here. This is a structure here on the line of the people who did the key origins of race theory. And so what you've got here, they were at a point called the Enlightenment in Europe at this point here. And one thing they did was taxonomy. So if you look in a book about the name of a flower, it'll give you an everyday name, and then it gives you a Latin name for it. And because they were wanting to connect to this point in history in Greece and then Rome with the Greeks and the Romans, they named everything, gave a Greco-Roman name to everything as in Latin language. Still goes on today. So you see, the meanings of the words race, etc., are going to become associated mainly with humans. And then when I was born in 1959, so the word I heard in the 1960s was racialist.
Yeah.
Racialist, not racist. Racist comes in
racialist.
after.
Yeah.
So they say someone's a racialist.
That's it. Yeah.
And so it's like they couldn't be bothered
That's
putting
why
the
it's
extra
one.
bloody,
Yeah.
what do you call them things, isn't it?
Syllable, isn't it?
The extra symbol. Too much if I say you're racialist. No, we're racist. So
Make
go on,
it
so
short.
on to that.
Yeah. And then what if, I was also thinking, what if you change the word racism? Instead of saying racism, like the concept, and put it down to just say it's a white supremacy or a white supremacist attitude, because based on the colour they're saying that, they're better than, another person because of their colour.
Yeah.
And that they want that ideology to be put out there, based on that.
Well, it's good what you're saying, is because the subtlety is this, is that sometimes they're not saying that they're better than them, but they're just saying that people are lesser than them.
Yes, by just
Yeah.
by not admitting it, by the omittance of it.
Yeah. There's
By
different
omission.
things. But then you got big islanders and small islanders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got that kind of dynamic going on about power. It's like power layers. It's all layers. And then people are males better than females? Is it this, that? So there's orders being put forward all the time. And so what I try to do with this is go to the core of things and say, let's get the idea of BC and AD. Let's drop some information on top of when things happened, and then we can look into where they happened as well. So by doing this, I make a structure. So you got the foundation here. This is a symbol. This is a decagon shape. The reason it's saying it's decagon, 10 sides, is because we use base 10 in history. Call it decade, century, and millennia. Most people can't even think in terms of a century, which are these markers here. A century is a long time. I said, so decades, you know, you say, oh, I said I was raised in the 1960s. Or is it 1970s? Oh, I was born in the 80s, whatever. But then what happens is, unless you're going to comprehend, if you're going to comprehend this spasm of time, you're going to have to go with this kind of dynamic across the top, where you see these things. These are periods of 2,150 years, and they're called the ages. So now, we're coming out of the age of Pisces, and we're going into the age of Aquarius. But most people say, oh yeah, the age of Aquarius. And I say, what age are we in now? I don't know. I didn't know until I started studying it. It was about 10 years ago I started studying it.
Just how old that people have been operating in other cultures in that long time frameworks.
Yeah.
Long, and you don't know that until you sort of get certain information and that. No, things didn't just start then. Calendars? No, they have a calendar which is mind-blowingly long, 24,000 odd years old calendar.
I put it on here. So I put it on this version. I put it on here because I said that the actual full cycle is 25,800 years.
Yeah, 25.
So if you're talking, and that's if you're using that number, the number I've used, because these are approximations.
Yeah, because
So can you imagine that these people had a calendar that's going really 26,000 years, but they must have known going back 26,000 years, they must have known another 26,000 years that it was going to happen, that it was actually happening. So the observations that these people have, it's all about restricting people in compressing us into these decades and centuries that we're calling here, that I call the corral. And here you teach history. So the idea is to learn about the brain hemispheres, how the human brain has been, how it functions, and these are just basics. So after the first page of the timeline, we go into here, and it's actually looking at the brain hemispheres. Because I went through all my schooling, I went into further education, higher education, and I not had one lesson about the brain and how the brain operates as a teacher. Not one.
You know what? I'm like, you don't teach in teacher training. Maybe
No.
If you study human biology, they'll look at the brain, but once you go into teaching, it's like, no, they don't.
So you remember I was saying that I was horrible because I had a brain hemispheres chart up in the classroom.
Oh, yeah.
And I always used to say to my classes when I was teaching them, I say, what hemisphere of the brain are we in now? And it's 50-50 in it, so it's like 50. And then if they got it right, then I say what aspect. So they have to know what aspects of the hemisphere of the brain we're using now. And so they go, no, sir, 10 minutes detention for every wrong answer. Yeah, man, I had on my legs.
Yeah, so he was more of a bastard than me.
Oh yeah, very much. So that was me being a thoughtful, nice bastard. So here we go now, is that so from lead, we then go into the area of bronze, which is expansion. So the idea here is history with a Y. And why do you use it with a Y? Because that's Greek for womb. For womb. So this is the womb line here. This is the golden thread. This is the mitochondrial DNA of the mother spinning right all, don't matter what numbers, what systems, what culture you put on. It's the female line running right the way through. So to expand, to have expansions at this level, this is the timeline. This is what we use a lineage timeline for, is to expand consciousness on that level. But then here we've got the healing, which is the life cycle and the lifeline, because if you know that you've been battered in here, you've been hammered in here for 400, 300 years or 1,300 years or whatever, the consequences of being battered, you're going to have to heal from. Does that make sense? You can read all the books you want, you can watch films, you can do this, you do that. What is the genetic damage that's been done? What's the process that you've been put through? How are we going to get out of this thing? Now it's being put forward as epigenetics. Now they're talking about it. Stuff we've been talking about for hundreds of years, that we personally have been on since late 80s and 90s.
Yeah, well, yes.
Now they're saying epigenetics.
Yeah.
You've got trauma that can be carried involving our
Dr. Bruce
bodies
was
or
talking
whatever.
about epigenetic a lot. You know Dr. Bruce.
Dr. Bruce.
Bruce something.
Oh yeah.
He's a biologist.
Yeah, but
So it's the
is
environment
that-
change the DNA, not the DNA.
Dr.
change the
Richard
body.
King had a conversation with him in 1991. African background to biological psychiatry at Tony Browder's place, and I asked him, I said, what about the word, you see the word genes, or jinn, means spirit, genie, spirit, and so I was saying to him, what about genes? And he said, genes can skip generations and they're triggered by diet, trauma, stress, or environmental circumstances, and those genes will trigger. So when you're looking at some of the craziness that's going on today with some of our young people, and then you're saying, well, what's actually going on? Look at their diet that they're looking at. I was looking at something online last night, and it's two guys dressed in dresses with guns and all this, with girls and all, they're all holding guns. Then he gets on his knees. This guy gets on his knees and starts sucking the gun barrel off and all of this business. And he's doing rapping and whatever. And it's just like, right, okay. I was expecting the gun going off by accident or something, but it didn't. So
was that a rap? Sorry, was that like
like a
young
rapper.
rappers? So
Yeah.
Getting the young rappers to dress in, well
Yes,
dresses.
they're all the madness is just everything going clear. But c'est la vie. What they want to do is what they want to do. That's okay.
But
Yeah.
do you think it's like? I mean, I know it's madness, and you say, and that's trauma as well. But it seems like they're being pushed like this.
Encouraged.
To attack the male.
All you have to do, watch this,
Specifically,
this. If you look into the esoteric and the occult, look at the works of Aleister Crowley, and his motto was "Do as thou wilt." And I did when people were always making these things about Jay-Z and what's she called, Beyonce, or whatever. I was going like, nah, people just getting in far-fetched and whatever. Then I saw he got a whole clothing line that says, "Do as thou wilt." So they're taking these things in. You can do what you want to do. You can be what you be. Do what you want to do. Yeah. Wave your hands in your hair like you just don't care and all this. Well, that's my generation started all that shit off. You understand me? There's no use turning around and blaming youngsters. When my generation were the ones who started all that thing. Basing out with the cocaine and everything else. Get out on the floor at Studio 54 and all of this business. So the healing that's needed is vast, and all that they're going to keep doing is the damage. Now watch this. You'll see on this here, there's a water symbol that flows all the way down here. It goes all the way down as well. And that's a symbol. It's the Kemetic symbol of water. In actual fact, there are 3 risings, and if you turn that over, it says www, like World Wide Web. And so that flow of knowledge and flow of information, you can get all kinds of stuff by the www. The interesting stuff that's going on here is that in Elephantine Island in Egypt, that you have the temple of Satet, and Satet was the Kemetic goddess of the inundation, the flood, the replenishment of the Nile. And the guy, I've got a picture of him on here, he's the architect who built the Aswan Dam and opened it in 1902. And what they did is effectively, it was the death of the Nile. Across from his house that he built on Elephantine Island was the Winter Palace. It's called the Old Cataract Hotel now, is a Winter Palace of King Farouk. That's where Agatha Christie wrote Death on the Nile. So across the river is the death of the Nile, and in the guy's backyard of his house are the temples to Satet, which were from pre-dynastic times, dynastic times. When the Arabs came in, they were monitoring from there. When the Ethiopians came in, they were monitoring from there, etc. They deliberately built that dam, and what did they do? They created the dam age of the Nile. Damage a dam stops the flow.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, let no flow grow. Because once you know this kind of information, you know that you're just repping things right here now. But the idea was, by the process of enslavement and later colonization, was to stop people knowing themselves and to cut out all of this genetic power that lies inside them.
And the interesting thing to, like, you know, just to, as an observation to, you know, to say as well is that the Nation of Islam speak on gods, you know, like the black man is God, black woman is God, just like the ancient, you know, from ancient times they're referred to as God. So it's like not knowing yourself, all that, you know, that taking, you know, like the dam as you're talking about.
Well, you see what's going on is watch this.
Stopping that, isn't it?
Just take that point and chew on that for a while.
Yeah.
That they stopped this thing here.
Yeah.
They stopped it. Like the same way they stopped the River Nile in Kemet, the same way they stopped that. Our flow of knowledge, our genetic power, our acknowledgement of who and what we are, and then they get us to go back to certain markers that they want to teach us. So watch this. When they first came, they had their Bible and we had our land. Now we have their Bible and they have our land. And then they taught us how to represent for them, and it's called neo-colonialism. They structured Africa. And then Africans run Africa for the interests of Europe.
If you go to Ethiopia now, yeah? Ethiopian, they discussing about gospel. Yeah? Before the Ethiopian, they was discussing about their land. They don't give no piece of land. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no joke about land. No land. It's two things, yeah. If anyone comes from for your wife and for your land, if it's okay to kill this person, because anyone who takes your wife, anyone who takes your land, you're done.
I wanted to. There's a quote I was looking for tonight, and it's a quote by Dr. John Henry Clark, and he says that message to the grassroots, a speech made by Malcolm X, I believe in Times Square in 1963, or no, I think it was Detroit. But he said it was the finest revolutionary message spoken by a black man in the 20th century. What he's saying is that land is the basis of nation, and if you don't have the land, you cannot have your nation. No sense of manhood or womanhood or humanhood. Without the land, you're nothing. Where is black land? Where is black land? Most black people don't want to call themselves African and say that they come from Africa. So you say, if you're black, you come from nowhere. If you're white, you can come from anywhere. Because you stole the land from anybody. So if you got that dynamic going on, and I said you got the black, take the B off black, it says black. So this thing here, when they start going on, the next time they want to start teaching you about, oh yes, black history, and they start giving you all the stuff from here. That's not black history, that's lack history. Lack history. So unless you've got this continuum that's awakening that thread, that golden thread within you, that genetic power. So should I start the session now? We're just warming up at the minute. We're on this. This is what a lot of people believe they're at this level because they read book. Because they know shit. But here the Sphinx is actually talking about the human head on the body of the lion. The king of the beasts. It's not king of the jungle, it's the king of beasts.
That's not the proper name though, is it?
Heru Emaket.
That's the proper name.
Yeah, but then what happens is that if you say Heru Emaket, people go, what the friggin' hell is that? But you say Sphinx, people know what a Sphinx is. Yeah? And then there are different versions of the Sphinx and whatever, but we're talking about the Great Sphinx, that's the guardian to the upper level of the Giza Plateau. You go through the Sphinx temple, you go there, you walk up, and then you're opening out into the Giza Plateau. So on all these levels, tonight, I'm going to be covering one. You'll see lead, bronze, silver, and gold, eventually gold, these two at the last. But then there's another level. The other level is platinum, which is the ascendant level, which you put here for the lotus blossom, the lotus symbol, the connection with the higher nature, with your idea of what God is. What do I teach at that level?
Third eye.
No, absolutely nothing, because it's none of my damn business what
Okay.
your higher level is.
Fair enough.
That's your business. That's your route to. These are building blocks to get up to the higher level. If you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Buddhist, if you're white, it don't matter what you are.
Higher
If you're
level.
spiritual, whatever you're going, you're taking you here. Get high.
Yeah.
Get there. That's your business. It's nothing to do with me.
True.
That's your business.
Yeah.
So, what we've got, the full interface model, I'll do this quickly. Going into a zone, imagine we're going into a zone with different people, and they're either it's professional zone or a personal zone. What will happen, person one will come in, and they will bring with them their history and cultural capital. i.e., what do you know about you? Do you know this much? Or do you know this much?
Know thyself.
What are you bringing in behind you? But I'll tell you what, you're going to bring in your color, you'll bring in your culture, you'll bring in your class, your character into the context, and you'll have a sense of status in that context. That's everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. If you don't have this thing, the first thing, and I always say this to people, I've never once been called a bastard black. I've been called a black bastard, but never a bastard black. I don't think so, anyway. I know the youths in school call me all kinds of shit, but not to my face usually. But I say, yeah, that bastard black, bastard breed, I think it would be, or something like that. So what we got there are colour. So colour, this just means aspects of the self used literally as race, and aspects of the self you cannot change. Even Michael Jackson, if you left him in a room long enough, will come out what?
Back.
Return.
Yeah, the return. So the culture, the way you do what you do, just because you've got the same colour, don't mean to say you have the same culture. You can share colour and culture, but be from a different class background within that culture. You can share colour, culture, and class. Colour, culture, and class, but be a totally different character. You might be one of the nice black folk who don't mind people calling you a Negro or whatever. But then you bump into the wrong black guy, and he's going to hand you his ass. Your ass. You understand me? So depend on the character. One of them might go like, oh, I'm being triggered by this. I'm being triggered. I was watching something yesterday. This young white youth online was complaining because he's a vegan, and he was complaining about what do you call those little icon things that you put smiley faces and all that business?
Emoji.
The emojis. He was complaining about being triggered by meat emojis. people on this thing. I know he's there talking about it. All you see is meat emojis and he was there crying and sobbing. I was like, oh no, is that what we're getting triggered with? Oh jeez. Anyway. So imagine here this sense of status. You brought your colour, culture, class, character into the context. You have your history to back you up. So if your history is only this much, who are you? What are you? Invented by Europe. That's all you are. So watch this. Your person two is going to come in, and they're going to bring their history and cultural capital and bring their colour, culture, class, and character into the context. And they'll have a sense of status, whether it's agenda A or agenda B. So it could be he's the manager of her. This could be a personal relationship between them. It could be anything that's going on in there, but then there's always going to be this power structure and power relationship. Junior, can you switch the light off now, please? Because I think we're going to say now what the idea is, history and lineage. You see this golden thread? People keep saying about, we don't know our history, we don't know this, of course, what do you mean you don't know? We got broken from our spirit was, how can you break spirit? You can't break spirit. How can you break your history when it's in your genes? How can you do it? It's impossible. It's only if you're acknowledging it or not. Are you acknowledging that, or else are you just going to be saying, oh no, I don't understand, or I don't get this, or whatever? And you keep saying those things and keep watching things to remind yourself of your oppression at this point here. So you're walking around with all of this, but you think you've only got this much. That's some form of that is some mental health issue.
But then it's like, I would imagine, or not imagine, but that not knowing the key to unlock it. And I think, yeah, because I think what a lot is missing, you know, like even in Christianity, you know, they say, oh, you know, the belief is in God and so on, and they're reading the book, the Bible, and in that